As chair of the Assembly Committee on Labor and Employment, I am aware that there are many pressing problems facing California's workers. However, I can think of no more critical issue than the abuse and exploitation faced by our immigrant workers. Almost 1 in 10 workers in California is undocumented. In the United States, California is a state with the highest percentage of undocumented workers. The National Employment Law Project, NALP, released an important national report last week. And today, at this press conference, they are releasing a California-specific report that highlights this problem through the stories of California workers who have been victimized and retaliated against based on their immigration status. Immigrant workers are uniquely vulnerable to violations of labor and employment laws, from minimum wage violations to failure to pay overtime to unsafe and hazardous workplace conditions. Compounding that problem is the added injustice of intimidation and retaliation based on immigration status. Those workers who dare to stand up for their rights on the job, be it through complaining to enforcement agencies about unfair and unlawful practices, or exercising their rights to engage in collective bargaining, that means a right of association, that means a constitutional right, are retaliated against by unscrupulous employers who try to use worker immigration status to stifle such efforts. Comprehensive federal immigration reform must address this crisis and protect these vulnerable workers from abuse. However, I, for one, am not content to stand by and wait for the federal government to do their job. As state policymakers, we have an obligation to ensure that these workers are fully protected under state labor and employment laws.
Yo he soportado por 5 años las malas condiciones en el lugar de trabajo.
I tolerated the bad working conditions in my workplace.
Lo más duro para mí fue cuando esto es duro para mí.
The hardest thing for me was when this is really hard for me to talk about.
Cuando yo salí embarazada,
When I got pregnant,
me dieron una orden de 2,000 cartones de Walmart.
they gave me an order for 2,000 cartons or boxes for Walmart.
Y querían que yo la sacara en 1 hora.
They wanted me to do it in 1 hour.
Tenía ya 8 meses de embarazo.
I was 8 months pregnant,
Yo solo me agarraba mi estómago
and I would just hang on to my stomach.
y le hablaba a mi bebé, le decía, ay bebé, ahí quédate.
And I would talk to my baby, and I told my baby, hang on, hang on.
We must never allow immigration status to be used as a weapon to silence the courageous individuals who stand up against wage theft and other labor abuses. This is my top priority this year as chair of Assembly Committee on Labor and Employment, and that is why it was important for me that our first hearing of the year addresses this very critical issue.
Y no es justo que nos amenacen solo por pelear salud y seguridad en nuestro lugar de trabajo nosotros.
And it's not fair for them to treat us like this for fighting for health and safety at the workplace.
Nosotros trabajamos en la bodega dignamente y no es justo ganar $8 la hora porque eso ganamos nosotros en lugar de bodega y nos quiten nuestra salud.
It's not right for them to just pay us $8 an hour at the warehouse without health and safety.